This video is made in collaboration with Car Market, which is Europe's largest online marketplace for trading card games. There is no better place to fulfill all your Yu-Gi-Oh! And card game based needs. This platform also has sections for all other major card games. You can find a link to Card Market down in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's get onto the deck profile.
What's up, guys? This is Simon from Pros and Card Gaming with an updated list of combos for the September ban list. So if you have been kind of paying attention on YouTube and on Twitch lately, there's been a ton of people kind of scrambling to develop new combos for the Infernoble deck. There's a lot of interesting directions people have taken. So you may have seen the Coltwing combos with Despot001 on channels like Shenping's channel and Pack's channel. So these are going to be covered kind of briefly in this video, but not in full extent. And I do think that the ban list hits in general were actually quite effective in kind of crippling this deck. You know, people will say that this deck, hasn't changed at all, or it just does the same boards. But I think kind of the resilience and the consistency both took a hit because there's new cards that you were playing, and people are saying, oh, like, why wasn't I playing these cards before? But there's usually a reason for that. There's generally like opportunity cost, or they're bricky, or they just don't help you kind of extend through disruption as well as the old combos would have. So that's kind of my point of view on this whole thing. I think it's, the deck still can definitely survive, and the combos are actually quite scary. You do end up generally with stronger boards now post Isolde compared to before, where you would typically just have like a negate plus a hand rip. But I think it's kind of disingenuous to say that, this deck is the same as before, or this deck is better than before without Jet and O-Lion. So I think just keep that in mind when you're going through these combos. I'm not really going to say whether I think any of these are better than the others, because I think the format is, it's like we're not even into the format yet, technically. So it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of develops. But just keep in mind, like, the weaknesses and the strengths of these combos. What are you giving up? Where are the weak points? And how does this compare to kind of what we were doing before? But that's enough of an intro. I'm going to start off with the first combo, which is it aims to I'm going to start covering the ones that like don't use as many garnets, and I guess are less convoluted in the beginning. And then as we go through, I'm going to cover a couple combos with Coltwing and 001, and to finish the video, I'm going to cover some combos with the newly unbanned Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche, which is an interesting route that I saw recently. So here's the first combo. So without further ado, here's the first combo. It's going to be off just Isolde, as usual. We're going to go double Fireflit into Isolde. And we're going to add any level 6 warrior. So you may have seen me in the previous video add Fiend Mega Cyber. We also found out about Gillilancer, which is kind of just like a slightly better version of Mega Cyber. It's still 2200. These are all, it kind of doesn't matter what they do. A lot of people are playing Lava Landslord, so it's just like, it doesn't matter. You can do this combo with Cypherm Driver as well if you opened it, so that's kind of funny. But we're going to use just any level 6 warrior will do. Mill 2, we're going to mill Durendal and Fossil because we're going to use Vylon Sphere in this combo. And we're going to go into Tatsunoko because we need to make use of this Gillilancer in our hand. So let's go ahead and do that. Tatsu, going to make Charles, doesn't really matter when we do it, and Link Cross Marcher will go into Fibrax, and we're going to summon Vylon Sphere here. So if you remember from kind of the previous videos, what Sphere does is mainly competed with Jet because they both put level 1 tuners on the board. The one that Sphere will do is we'll get Renaud off Durendal, so you do kind of get the second level 1 tuner, and then you'll additionally get the extra equip off Renaud. So that's how we're going to get access to Fossil here. And then with Renaud in the token, we're going to make Herald. We're going to just Fossil back the Genba, and then just very simply go into Roland and then Savage. So this is extremely similar to the Fiend Mega Cyber combos that I showed in the advanced combo video. It's more or less unchanged, honestly, except that in the other video, you ended up with, you just used Jet and O-Lion instead. And so you're just altering it to use Vylon Sphere, and then on the same, or arguably the better board of 2 negates plus the Charles hand rip. Combo number 2 is also going to be off of just Isolde. Here we're going to try to go into Savage Charles and resolve 2 smoke grenades, and we're going to use Power Tool during this combo, but it will not involve Deskbot or Coltwing. So let's get started. It's just going to be Isolde, adding anything pretty much. We're going to mill 4 in this case to summon Oliver, and it's important that we keep 3 Durandal in the deck because we're going to be adding that off Power Tool later. So we're going to go ahead and go into Fiber, bring out Plaguespreader. Plaguespreader is another tuner option that people are running in their decks. It's quite interesting. It's just a level 2 tuner that basically comes back, so it's, I think, a cool option to consider. It not being machine is a little annoying at times, but you can go into cards like Marcher off of it quite easily. So in this case, we're going to make Marcher to bring back Oliver. And then we need the machines to go into Aurodon here, so we have to link off the Marcher, unfortunately. We're going to summon 3 level 3 tokens, and then Oliver, who is now level 4 because we brought him back with the Marcher, is going to synchro with one of the level 3 tokens into a Power Tool. And so Power Tool is going to reveal 3 Durandals, and we're going to add Renaud. So Power Tool is a really interesting card. It's a card that the OCG has been playing for a while. You have to remember that they have no link crossover there. And so a lot of really common OCG combos are summoning like Apollousa pretty early, and then they'll go Fiber Combo under it, and they'll go into like some Excel Synchron line into Power Tool Dragon to get access to Renaud that way. So this is a card that we were actually experimenting with before the ban list because it was able to kind of raise the ceiling of your end boards. And now it's a really, really popular option in a lot of players' combos for good reason. It gives you a lot of advantage. So we're going to use it to get a Durandal here, but in later combos, we're going to use it to get other equips. So Durandal will get Renaud. We need a way to summon the Renaud now, so we need to summon a Fire Warrior somehow. We're going to do that by adding back the Phoenix Blade as a free card to put back for Plaguespreader. So this is similar to kind of how we use Phoenix Blade as just fodder for Jet. It's a nice luxury. And now that Plaguespreader, a level 2 tuner, is on the field, we can synchro it with a level 3 token for Roland. So now the Renaud is live. We'll add back the Smoke Grenade we milled at the beginning of the combo with Isolde. And we're going to pop it really quickly with a Aurodon because we do not use it. We don't play Coltwing in this combo. We don't play any of the Mecha Phantom Beasts. So we can use a Aurodon to actually get rid of itself and pop the Smoke Grenade. Now we'll synchro the Renaud and the Power Tool into a Savage, and we'll equip the Aurodon that we just got rid of. And then the level 5 Roland plus the level 3 token and the level 1 Link Rush token are finally going to go into Charles here. Equip back Oliver, we'll get Ogier from the deck, and we'll equip Smoke in the end phase. And so this is 2 triggers of Smoke Grenade, plus the standard, quote-unquote standard, I guess, Savage Charles board, rather. And this is off of Isolde, so this was possible last format as well. And so this does, again, kind of tie into the whole thing of like, oh, you know, you could have done this last format, but there was a bit of opportunity cost. Naturally, that this combo plays Power Tool, whereas the previous one didn't. And we're also playing Plaguespreader instead of kind of better tuners, arguably. And also, you'll notice that this combo does not have any kind of protection early on, so the first negate you kind of board is the Savage Dragon. Technically, I guess the Smoke Grenade and the Aurodon is what's going to force an interrupt, but it is very vulnerable to disruption. And you'll notice that's kind of a trend of a lot of these combos you're going to see popping up on YouTube. This next one is a really simple one that I wasn't even sure I was going to show, but it's very, very quick, and it's kind of just kind of a demonstration of what else you can do. This is a very simple King Calamity combo where you play basically no Garnets, so you're not going to play like Plaguespreader or Violent Sphere or Coltwing and Deskbot. So the only Garnet pretty much is Genba, and I've already covered that you can also use Fireflint to summon Genba if you ended up drawing it. So this is just a very, very quick and simple combo. We're going to go Isolde, adding Red Layer because we're going to make Savage using Tatsunoko. Summon Genba, and then we're going to go Link Cross, Marcher, Tatsunoko. Marcher, bring back Genba, Tatsunoko, Red Layer into Savage. So unlike the first 2 combos, you do actually put up Negate pretty early, but this is also pretty much the whole combo because we're going to go Fiver, summoning any level 2 tuner, in this case Gamma, and just pass turn. And then during their main phase, you may have seen this play in Megalith already, and a lot of decks can do this. We're just going to go into Formula, and then Formula plus Gamma plus Savage, synchro for Hot Red Dragon Archer King Calamity because it requires 2 tuners and a non-tuner Dark Dragon synchro. So you just shut them out of their turn. So kind of one thing I do want you to keep in mind during these videos is, why are you playing Infernoble to do this combo? What makes Infernoble better at doing this combo than other decks? So the reason that you would do this combo is because Infernoble is the only deck right now that can make full use of Tatsunoko, because you get a lot of level manipulation off of the monster that you add with Assault. So it kind of guarantees very, very easy access to the Savage early on, and then it kind of effortlessly sets this up. But the drawbacks of this combo are, of course, that you don't really have a follow-up because you're not adding Gearfried, and you're not as insulated from the going second cards as you normally are. So you will just die to a Dark Ruler or a Droplet on your Fiver or your Savage or your Formula. I guess not your Savage, but the point being that there's weaknesses to this one, but it's very simple. There's no Garnets, and it's just kind of abusing this interaction of Isolde plus Tatsunoko. So it's a quick and easy one. We're going to go into the Coltwing combos. Next up is one of 3 Coltwing combos I'm going to show off in this video. This is going to be the standard one off just Isolde with no interruption. The next 2 are going to be kind of how you play through different types of disruption. So this is probably a combo you've already seen before. I know that Pack and Shenping have been very enthusiastic about the Coltwing Despot combo. And if you've been watching Cody stream on Twitch, he's also been playing around with Coltwing and some other cards. So this is something you've probably already seen, but I'm just going to go over it and talk about kind of the pros and cons. So starting off, we're going to do the same Isolde route that you've seen in older videos. This is pretty standard at this point. We're going to go into Marcher and then Tatsunoko. So with this route, you could instead go a Herald here. You would end on a double Herald instead, and that is totally fine. The Tatsu is just here to kind of demonstrate that it's kind of the same thing. And the other thing is that this combo needs 4 free main monster zones. So typically you will have a negate sitting in one of these zones, and then you'll just use the other 4 to combo. So in this case, that negate is Savage. It could also be a Herald, but if you open a Gearfried, what you can do is instead of going into Savage, you'll go into an Omega. And you'll just banish the Omega to make space, and then the Gearfried will sit here instead of the Savage to protect your combo. So after this, the rest is going to be off of just Fibrax and looping Despot over and over again. And so that is, I think, a very big benefit of this combo, is that you have a very self-contained combo off of just Fibrax that is really strong. And if you can get to Fibrax, you can get to a variant of this combo almost every time. So we're going to go ahead and go Despot, summon 3 tokens, summon Bath the Despot. And then Despot and 2 tokens are going to make Power Tool. We're going to reveal 3 DDR and then add 1 to hand. So this is kind of the first drawback I want to talk about, is that this is, I guess the standard version of this combo does play 3 DDR because you need to reliably add it. The point of this is going to be to get back Genba later on in the combo. And that means that, a lot of lists that you're going to see are going to be out there playing 3 DDR, and that can brick, which I'm going to talk about in the deck profile section at the end of the video. But for now, we're going to use Auroradon, attributing the Power Tool and the other token, summoning a Coltwing. So if you don't know what this card does, it just summons 2 tokens that are level 3 and Machine. So this will trigger Despot again. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then Despot plus 1 of the tokens, we're going to make Herald. And we're going to add back the Phoenix Blade as discard fodder. Don't banish 2 Fireflint here. That was a mistake. You want to banish the Genba so you can summon it back off DDR. So we're going to do that now, pitching the Phoenix Blade. And now Genba is a level 2 tuner. We're going to use the level 3 token to make Roland. And then Roland plus the level 4 Coltwing will make Charles. And then the end phase will do kind of the standard setup. So this is another way to get to this kind of 2 negate board, plus the Charles hand rip, plus the Auroradon at the end of the combo. So this is the same board that I showed as the first combo, but you'll notice that it's different because you set up this early negate very early on in the combo, and it's very self-contained off of Fiber. So that makes this a little more resilient to kind of playing through and around disruption. And I'm going to show that in these next couple combos. The second Coltwing combo is going to show what you can do if your Isolde special summon effect gets negated by something like an Imperm or an Ash Blossom. So let's just go ahead and start. We're going to go 2 warriors into Isolde. And we're going to mill 2, and we're going to assume that we get, Impermed here, for example. So we'll go ahead and just summon our tuner extender. In this case, we're going to be using Oliver. This could be, any Telly or something else. summoning Link Cross into 2 tokens, and then directly into Fiber summoning Deskbot. So I mentioned in the previous combo that you need 4 zones to kind of do this successfully, so we need to actually burn a zone here. There's more than one way to do this, and I'm sure this is not the only way to do this combo. And I'm sure that other YouTubers are going to cover, their own takes on how you can play past disruption. But I like this one. We're going to go into formula here and just draw a free card. So just keep that in mind. You do draw 1 in this, and then we're going to go into Marcher, bringing back the formula. And this formula is going to sit here for a while we do the rest of the combo. We're going to go Auroradon. This will trigger the Deskbot. And then same as before, we go Power Tool. We're going to reveal 3 Durendal this time instead of DDR. Part of that is because we already have this level 2 tuner. You'll notice that a lot of the time, the objective of Power Tool is just to summon a level 2 tuner. And so we can kind of skip that step in this case. The same play, attributing Power Tool and the token to go for Coltwing, trigger Despot again. Go into Herald, and then formula plus the other token are going to make Roland, and this will make the Renault live. So in this case, you could add back a fossil, and depending on the extenders in your hand, you could probably fiend out, like a Savage Dragon or something in addition to your board. But assuming no other extenders at all, one thing that we can do is you can go into 2 Smoke Grenade loops, quote unquote 2. We're going to go Roland plus the Coltwing into a Charles, and then we're going to manually equip the Smoke Grenade. Note that we can't use the Auroradon to pop it in this case because we used it to summon the Coltwing, so this is going to be kind of a delayed double hand loop, which is why I said quote unquote earlier. Go ahead and equip OGA in the end phase, and then equip back Smoke, and then this Smoke will be here for you to pop during their turn. So you can do this during their main phase, for example, and there's pros and cons of this. You can, you get intel on their 6th card, but it leaves you a little more vulnerable to stuff like top decking like a Droplet or a Dark Ruler. And it means that the Charles pop will be expended for that turn, but generally this is still a very strong end board. And keep in mind this was through a Disrupt on your Assault. So that is this version, and you will also have the extra draw from the formula as well. So the last Coltwing combo I'm going to show is demonstrating how you can play through a Nibiru. This is the same hand as the second combo where you have a tuner extender plus Isolde. So let's just go ahead. You've seen this all before. So we're going to go into the Marcher play, and you will probably get nibbed around here. It doesn't really matter whether they drop the Nibiru on this board or whether you go for Tatsu and the Savage, because the end results can be the same. They'll just typically do it here because if you make a Herald, then the Nibiru is just never dead, never live. So we'll assume they drop it here. We're going to go ahead and summon the Oliver. And the rest of the combo is again not just Fiber. And so this is, I think, I have a lot of, varying feelings about the Coltwing combo, but this is undeniably one of its strengths in that it guarantees so much off of just Fiber resolving. This is the same kind of, strengths that I was looking for in the previous format's deck building, where it was just about, how can I establish a negate before Fibrax and then just get as much as possible off of the Fibrax resolving. So we're going to go ahead and just go into the Auroradon plays, summoning back the Deskbot and then going into Power Tool. So you'll want to keep in mind that what I mentioned before is that Power Tool's main job is to get access to a level 2 tuner. And so both Living Fossil and DDR would do that here. But one other thing you can actually do is use Power Tool to reveal 3 Durendal. And I'm just going to demonstrate that here. We're going to add it. And then we're going to Auroradon, summoning the Coltwing, 2 tokens, and then Deskbot. So if you read Durendal, it has a second effect that no one really uses, where if the equipped monster is sent to the graveyard, then you can revive a level 5 or lower warrior monster in your graveyard, and then your warrior locked for the rest of the turn. So if the only objective is to kind of summon this Genba out somehow, then we can actually use Durendal's effect to do this. So we're going to go ahead and equip it to the Despot and then make Herald. And this will trigger the Durendal engrave. Summon back the Genba. We are warrior locked, but it doesn't matter because we are only summoning Roland and then Charles. So the purpose of this is to kind of illustrate that you don't really need to play 3 DDR, I don't think. I think you could probably get away with playing maybe like 2 Fossil, 1 DDR, or flipping the ratios, because even in cases like these, there are going to be kind of game states where you can use Durendal instead of one of those equips. And that's going to allow you to kind of cut unnecessary numbers of equips in your deck, which I think is one of the biggest flaws right now of these power tool routes, especially the ones that reveal 3 DDR. So this is going to end in the same standard board. And keep in mind, this was off of pretty much just fiber, so that's quite strong. Last format, you would have only gotten the Charles off of fiber. So this is kind of illustrating that this Coltwing route is pretty resilient because of its kind of emphasis on getting as much as possible out of the fiber and just putting up in the gate before that. To close out the video, I'm going to go over 2 quick combos involving the newly unbanned Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche. Shoutouts to Ivan Chuk for these combos. They are really cool, and I think they compete in a good way with the Coltwing combos because they play fewer garnets, and I think they're also pretty resilient to opening the garnets. Your end board is going to be a little less explosive, but I think there is a lot of room to innovate with this deck building, and so this is an option I wanted to show. So this is going to be off just Isolde. It's not super optimal because ideally you would have any extra monster. So in this case, we need some way to get an extra monster on the board. So what we're going to do is we're going to mill Durendal to summon Renaud. And then we're going to immediately search Oliver and summon the Oliver. So now we have 2 monsters plus the Isolde, one of which is a tuner, and we're going to use that to go into Fiber, summoning Plaguespreader. And then Plaguespreader will go into Marcher and then bring back the Plaguespreader. So this is important because Plaguespreader is dark and we do want to make Bardiche. We're going to do that now, going into Barricade Blocker using Renaud and Fiber. And so the reason you play Barricade Borg is because it is a Dark Link 2 you can make with basically anything. And the discard is free. So when you open Cloak, this can discard the Cloak and you can get boots. So that's a very easy way to kind of mitigate these risks of playing Garnish in your deck. We're going to make Bardiche and dump Cloak to set Shade Brigandine. And the reason you don't make Herald with these 2 cards right now is because you need the Cloak to go to the graveyard or else you can't set the Shade. And so if you had the Herald up, you wouldn't be able to do that. So after this, we're going to make Herald. So it's very important that you don't make this beforehand. Now we're going to Cloak for boots and then summon the boots. And like I said in the beginning, this is kind of the worst case scenario where you have no extra monsters whatsoever. Typically, you would have some other way to get to Bardiche instead of having to summon the Renaud off the Isolde, and you would probably have a Phoenix Splint in the graveyard. But as it is, we're just going to assume you have an extra card for the Plaguespreader. We're going to summon it back, make Renaud, make Roland rather, and then use Shade, and Roland will make Charles. And then finally, the boots is still in the graveyard, so we can actually search a Fogblade and set the Fogblade. And then in the end phase, we're going to do the standard smoke grenade stuff, and that is this end board. So it is technically 2 negates because the Fogblade is a monster negate. And the kind of nice thing about Fogblade also is that this is another way to protect your Herald from being run over by battle, which is quite nice. And it doubles as a way to kind of preserve your Charles pop. You won't have to pop something, and the Charles pop is only doable in the main phase because you're going to combo this with the Roland Synchro, and that means that this also plays around cards like Tactics, which is kind of a small benefit. It's pretty nice, and that is this end board. The very last combo in the video is going to be what I was talking about earlier, where you open Isolde and literally any other monster in your deck, pretty much. Way to get it on the field, that is. It doesn't really matter what it is. So we're going to just have Connector and a Flint here. We're going to go into Isolde. You could do the play where you connect her back to Dolphin, so you can Dolphin twice. It does not matter. I'm just going to go into this. And this will allow us to set up an early negate to protect our combo. And you'll want to use Savage over the Herald in this case because of what I said before, where if the Herald is up, the Cloak will get banished. So we unfortunately have to go Savage this route, which is fine. If this resolves, then the rest of the combo is totally protected by the Savage, and we're going to go into the same as before, where we go into Plague, and then Connector, plus the Fiber will go into Barricade, and finally Bardiche. So the end goal is ultimately to resolve Bardiche with any way to summon a level 2 tuner, and that will get you to the Charles. So we're going to send Cloak, set Shade, banish the Cloak, add Boots, summon the Boots, and then we're going to go Plague plus Boots into Roland. So the nice part about doing the combo kind of ideally now is that you have the Phoenix Blade to put back for free for the Plaguespreader, and this will let you end on Savage plus Charles plus the hand rip with a set Fogblade. So that is going to wrap up this video. Now I'm going to go into the deck profile section. I'm going to show kind of an example deck list for the PK build. This is not really going to be, I'm not really endorsing this as the best variant, but I think, people are going to already have plenty of videos with the Coltwing in their deck lists, and this is going to be a little more interesting than that. So let's head over to the deck list. This is going to be a deck profile that plays the PK engine. I am showing this off because I think a lot of other people will already be showing off kind of their own lists with Coltwing and 001, so I didn't want to kind of unnecessarily do that. And this is a little more interesting, in my opinion, and a little more fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do an example. This is a pretty vanilla list. It's, there's not many interesting texts aside from the PKs, and I think there's a lot of room to innovate, but I just wanted to show kind of a very basic list that is definitely quite playable. So it's 40, you play 3 of all the good extenders, and then you play Connector as your normal summon. This is doubly good because you can pitch your PKs if you draw them, Cloak especially, and then you play 1 Gear Free, 1 OGA, and 1 each of these PKs. One interesting option is you can actually choose to play kind of multiples of these, like 2 Cloak, 2 Boots, which makes it so that you can not only resolve Bardiche more than once, but also if you do happen to open these, it's not as impactful on your kind of end board. And it means you can kind of, more easily play if you draw these. But even if you don't, and you just play 1 of each, drawing these is not the end of the world. Opening Boots, for example, you can still just Bardiche, send Cloak, and then you just summon this from a hand. If you open Shade, that's fine. If you open Cloak, this is the only kind of awkward one, but you can discard this with Dolphin or with Barricade Board Blocker. So that is the reason this is played. The rest of the list is pretty standard. You play Plague to summon off of Fiber, and then 3 Ash because it hits everything. This is not mandatory at all. 6 Rotas, the actual Rota, 3 Equips, and Midbreaker and Upstart. Midbreaker's in here because it's kind of unclear whether you're allowed to Barricade Borg without any equips, or sorry, without any continuous or field spells in your deck. So to just kind of avoid that headache on DB, you can just play the 1 Midbreaker, and then it should just always be legal. So that's that. The extra deck is very straightforward. You play all of the cards you have to play. Tatsunoko is now actually needed because you can't Herald early in the Bardiche combo, so we have to Savage early instead, and the rest is just cards that kind of are mandatory. So very straightforward deck profile. I do want to spend the remainder of the video talking about kind of the state of Infernoble post Banlist and directions that people could take this deck in. So it seems to me that there are basically 3 options for tuners you summon off of Fibrex, and those are Vylon Sphere, Plaguespreader, and Deskbot. So before you would just always get Jet, and I mentioned in previous videos that Sphere is direct competition for Jet because they both get the extra level 1 tuner on the board, but Sphere will double as another way to search more or less any equip in your deck. So post Banlist, I think, if you want to play, I think, as few Garnets as possible, you would build your deck around Vylon Sphere. And just the ability to kind of use this card to really easily get value out of Fibrex. Just going into Renault and then Fossil, usually bring back a tuner, is one very easy way to kind of make sure you can actually synchro with all your stuff. But the downsides of this card are, of course, that it's reliant on not using Durendal at all, because this is the only equip that Sphere really combos with. So if you've already used Durendal to kind of start your combo, then this card isn't doing anything, and you're really kind of left struggling to do anything with your Fibrex. Plague is another option that people have been playing. I showed a few combos with Plague in this video. It is interesting, but I think it's also frustrating in a couple of regards. I think the main one is that when you Plague summoning itself back from the graveyard and then you make Marcher, your Plague ends up banished. And that makes it very difficult to kind of continue to combo if you're not on some deck that plays Power Tool VDR to bring back this Plague. But apart from that, I think there's a lot of uses for this card. I think its ability to combo with Marcher is quite nice. And it also puts back Garnets, which is relevant for the next pair of cards I'm going to talk about, which are Despot and Coltwing. So of the combos I showed today, I do feel that the Coltwing combos are kind of most closely resembling what I was looking for in this deck last format, which is kind of a separate stages of combo where you know what you're guaranteed off of certain power cards resolving. So like I want to know that if I resolve Fibrax, I'm getting this much out of it. And so the Coltwing combos do a really good job at doing that, which I've showed in the 2 combos through interruption. So I'm a big fan of that, but as a whole, I'm not hugely keen on playing cards like Despot and Coltwing in this deck because they feel kind of worse to play with than Jet and Olion. I think people will say that, you can just put in these 2 cards instead of Jet and Olion. I think the comparison is not strictly accurate. I think also the combo revolving around Power Tool Dragon is another detriment because you have to play like more equips, and I do think that the equips are going to contribute to your bricking quite a bit more than last format. And like, so people will say that cards like DDR aren't bricks, for example, but I think that's kind of looking at it idealistically, if that makes sense. So like the DDR, for example, you can combo doing a lot with it, especially if you've, or I guess only if you've managed to resolve Isolde, sending the Phoenix Blade, does a drawn DDR become useful. So DDR is one of those cards where like if you can't get to Isolde, or if they like Conquistador, or they punishment you on the Isolde, then your DDR is just kind of contributing to a brick in hand. Or if you open like a Renaud and like a hand trap and then 2 other cards and like a DDR, and DDR could have been a starter or a warrior or something, then there were DDRs pricking you there as well. So I think you should think about situations like that. I think also with Power Tool, there are going to be situations where like you play through DDR and you open 1 and you used 1 to get the Fibrax or something, and then now your Power Tool combo has to rely on hitting 2 of your, 1 of the 2 remaining DDRs in decks, and so if that whiffs, then you're in trouble. So I think just minor considerations like these are important things to consider when you go for stuff like the Power Tool combo. But overall, I'm more impressed with, I think, the Coltwing stuff than I expected to be. I think people are going to try this on the ladder. I don't know if this is going to be the version people settle on, but it looks pretty promising. So that's that. The next card is Phantom Knights of Tier Scale. This is an OCG card in Phantom Rage that we are getting, I think, in about 2 months. It is really, really good. So what it says is basically you discard 1 card, you mill a PK, and then if another PK is banished from your graveyard while it's in your graveyard, you can bring it back. So what you do is you mill Cloak to add Boots, and then you summon Boots, and then you can either go into Cherubini or Isolde using Boots and the tier scale. And then after that, your Boots can get Shade Brigandine, and getting Shade Brigandine will trigger the tier scale again, and you'll bring it back. So this card on its own, plus a discard, is essentially either double Isolde or Cherubini plus Isolde. And that is crazy and opens up a lot of really fun deck building. So that is one reason I wanted to show off this kind of PK variant, is that this is going to get a lot stronger after Phantom Rage, and the deck in general will have some interesting options using tier scale after Phantom Rage. Another potential option is Armageddon Knight. It is definitely playable in this version, but I chose not to play it to keep it kind of as simple as possible. One really interesting thing I've seen is this card being used in the Despot Coltwing build, because when you open Coltwing, you can just send Plaguespreader with Arma and then put the Coltwing back with Plaguespreader. So that's pretty funny and is definitely a nice little option for that deck. There's other ways to play around drawing Coltwing. One that I saw that was also very interesting is one where you use Hatsunoko to synchro with Coltwing in hand to go into Power Tool. So I thought that was quite cool. That's on the DB Grinders channel if you want to check that out. Photon Pulse Dragon is another option. This is a card I saw Cody playing on stream. You basically summon this at the very end of the combo to more easily access your Charles. Because a lot of the times the levels at the end of your combo are really like unwieldy. You have like a lot of 1s and 3s, and it can be hard to have the levels line up in a way that you can summon Charles. So the Photon Pulse is just a very easy way to get to that. So this is another option to consider, especially if you play the Coltwing build. And last up are Verte and Dragoon. These are pretty self-explanatory to run, which is why I didn't show any combos using them, because you pretty much just like modify it so that you turn 2 monsters into a Verte at some point, and so I didn't feel like they were really worth showing. But you can definitely play these in this deck. They are another option. I think you also need to keep in mind when you play these cards, or when you play any card pretty much, is, what is this card giving me in this deck that, makes it so that I should be playing this deck instead of some other deck? Like, why am I playing Infernoble, for example? What edge are these cards giving me that make Dragoon kind of the go-to, So I think that is kind of something you want to keep in the back of your mind for not only Dragoon, but any of these combo options, So like, why am I playing X card over Y card, and what are the advantages and the disadvantages of going certain combo routes? So the format is very young. There's a lot of innovation left, and I expect the deck to kind of go over a couple evolutions as the format develops. I think we are probably one of still the stronger decks, but I think the banlist hits are pretty substantial, and it'll be very interesting to see kind of where people choose to take this deck as the format develops. So yeah, that is going to do it for this video. Thanks for sticking with me. If you want to see more content like this, like and subscribe, and check out our sponsors.